Candace Owens, on multiple occasions, has decided to defend Kanye West and his anti-Semitism. And it's finally gotten to a point where Ben Shapiro has to say something, specifically against Candace Owens, which he kind of shied away from doing up until now. Now, I gotta give you the context, then we'll get to what Shapiro had to say. Owens decided to quote tweet, of all people, Max Blumenthal, who I've got no love for, to agree with his comments about Jewish people in America. So here's what Blumenthal had written, quote, "We white American Jews are living through a golden age of power, affluence, and safety. Acceptance of this welcome reality threatens the entire Zionist enterprise, from lobby fronts like the ADL to the state of Israel, because Zionism relies on Jewish insecurity to justify itself." And while we obviously have talked about at great length the issues we have with the Israeli government and its treatment of Palestinians, so we agree on that front, the idea that white American Jews are living through a golden age of power, affluence, and safety, little insane, especially considering the hate crimes that they have to deal with, their synagogues dealing with domestic terrorists. Safety is not the word I would use. Anyway, but somehow Candace Owens came across that tweet, quote tweeted it and said, "You are about to get into a lot of trouble for stating this. Reminds me of when I said something similar about the NAACP and BLM way back when. When you disrupt the trauma economy and call out the not-for-profits that benefit from it, you become their next target." So before we get to Ben Shapiro's response to all of that, I wanted to let you jump in, Cenk, to kind of share your thoughts on this.
So I have a friend who's a really good progressive, very thoughtful guy, and he used to say, look, and he's Jewish, and Max is also Jewish, but my friend, not Max, used to say, look, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago or so, he's like, we're not really suffering, we're doing okay, right? It's of course not the anti-Semitic tropes about how Jews run everything, that's absurd, right? But hey, we shouldn't claim a lot of victimhood here, where there are a lot more people suffering in the country, right? Now, if you ask him today, he says, well, of course the situation is different, right? Things have changed dramatically, right? So that is a person who's giving you their real opinion and is being honest about the issues, right?
Yep.
So even when Max and I were on the same side before he became a total weirdo who does propaganda for different reasons, I remember looking at his opinions on Israel and thinking, this guy's a little unhinged. And so I think the Israeli occupation of West Bank, Gaza Strip is totally, utterly unacceptable. I think it's an apartheid state at this point, etc. But Max would always find a way to go over the top in a way that I was like, but that's like hurting our side. I don't know why you're saying weirdo things that make you seem like a radical, not stable person. So that makes me not want to associate with you, right? And so that's the Max side of this. So unsurprising that as synagogues are being attacked, Kanye is doing this anti-Semitic stuff, everybody's piling on, including Candace Owens. Here comes Max Blumenthal to say, oh yeah, Jews are doing great, don't worry about it, keep going, right?
Let me jump in actually, because this is anecdotal. I don't know how widespread this practice is. But the area I live in has a pretty large Jewish community. And so as a result, there are Jewish temples and synagogues in my neighborhood. And I've noticed that every single one of them has armed guards.
Yeah, my community too.
Yeah, every single one of them. So you don't have armed guards in front of your temple or synagogue unless you've been targeted. And you're scared, right? That someone's gonna come and cause a violent situation. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. Now, Shapiro weighs in. And he says, I think the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, is a partisan hack organization too. But retweeting Max Blumenthal, who spends his life covering for Jew haters and stumping for Israel's destruction, makes the conversation significantly worse. It's garbage. Now, he had said some stuff that was clearly in response to Candace Owens in the past, but this was the most direct that he's been. She didn't like the fact that he was being so direct, and she didn't like that she was being called out publicly. And she said, quote, "I don't know who Max Blumenthal is, but I do know that you have my number and you could have informed me in earnest. Real relationships should trump Twitter theater. Let's set a better example going forward." After that, they didn't have any public exchange on this matter. But I do want to give you an example of Shapiro kind of responding to her without naming her in the past. Earlier this month at a speech at Texas A&M University for the Young Americas Foundation, Shapiro went so far as to say that Owens' defense of West was morally wrong and that she would have been fired from the Daily Wire if she had said what West had said. He did draw a distinction, however, between what Owens had actually said and West's comments, framing her words as having defended her friend. Okay, sorry, so he did name her. But I mean, she's defending the anti-Semitism, and I don't know, man. I guess on the left, we're so used to everyone sniping each other constantly, even over like misconceptions, that like it's shocking to me that someone would provide cover for someone who's providing cover for anti-Semites by saying, well, she's just looking out for her friend. No, she's providing cover for an anti-Semitic statement. No pass, in my opinion, but okay.
No, this is not close.
Yeah. So
Shapiro's in a really tough spot because he picked the hateful side to be on. And so that's 100% on him. But now to the core of the issue. So there's Candace Owens pretending to have the moral high ground, being like, oh, I guess if you want to do Twitter theater, I mean, what do you do?
Nothing but substantive content.
Yeah, when you go on Twitter, you go on wherever else you go, and you're like, oh, Kanye West is awesome. And I can't tell what he means by DEFCON 3 on all Jewish people. That's not theater, right? That's not. But when you're criticized for that, all of a sudden it's theater, okay? So the reason Shapiro is in a tough spot, as we explained on day one, the minute Candace Owens said her defense of Kanye West, I was like, oh, Shapiro's screwed. Because now if he fires her, people go, oh, cancel culture, oh, now we can't be anti-Semites. Hashtag freedom of speech, baby, right? And a ton of the right wing are anti-Semites. And so he set up his camp in the middle of a nest of vipers. And so all of a sudden he looks around and he goes, oh, I woke up and it turns out there's vipers everywhere. Well, goddamn right there is, we told you, right? So now he can't fire her, but at the same time, she's saying terrible things.
Yep.
Supporting Kanye West, who's an over-the-top anti-Semite, who has now we all, at this point, we know the stories of how he's praised Hitler over and over again. Non-stop stories of people that worked with him, people that were interviewed him, people that were with him saying, yeah, that guy loves Hitler, right? Yeah. And so now she's still defending him. Ben, grow a pair and fire her.
Yeah, look, I don't know if this is gonna change at all, right? But what I'm noticing is that the discourse, regardless of what policy or what issue we're discussing, is just dominated by a tiny, tiny group of the most extreme figures on both sides. I see it in social media, I see it in independent media, I see it all over the place. And so if you're not on the extreme ends of the political spectrum, you find yourself having to like, I don't know, acquiesce or
yeah, of course.
No, and I hate it because I feel a little bit of that on the left to some extent. Not to this extent, like obviously different issues, different problems. With me, it's more what I've been talking about on the show, where it's like, hey, can we please stop telling people who are experiencing violent crimes that they're not experiencing violent crimes? It's driving me crazy because it's unfair to the communities that we're supposed to be looking out for and wanting to represent. So there's that. But then on the right, like here's Shapiro, he's in a room full of crazy people. Yeah, part of it is his own doing. But why is it that we're letting like the most extreme voices take over the entire discourse? And I think part of it is if you're not a strong person who's willing to withstand the endless threats, accusations, abuse that you're gonna get, well then you're just gonna acquiesce.
Yeah, but that's what weak people do. Okay,
there's a lot of weak people.
No, I got you, but so and Ben is weak, and so look, guys. So there's the bandwidth for what is acceptable conversation in corporate media, mainstream media, the ABCs, the CNNs, etc., and that is about this wide, okay? You must agree with all corporate policies, and that's wonderful, moderate, bipartisan stuff. And if you come an inch outside of that, as Tiffany Cross found out, like you fight back against Tucker Carlson, you're gone, okay? You're outside of acceptable thought. Everybody bow their heads to corporate rule. So that's here. So here at TRT, we expanded it, right? And so we expanded the discourse. And when we did, by the way, we got a couple of ghouls and goblins. They're now left the network and they're gobbling away in somewhere else. And that's the price you pay when you expand the bandwidth of thought. But is there a point where I go, no, you're now outside of it? Yeah, of course there is. So if one of our hosts was like, yeah, I think Kanye saying Hitler's not so bad is okay. No, you're gone. It's not complicated, it's not hard, right? And is it because it's about Jews? Of course not. If you said it about Muslims, you said it about blacks, you said it about Asians, you're gone, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to criticize anyone who's black or Asian, right? Of course not, right? And so how do you make that judgment call? By using your mind, your brain, independent judgment, and going, hey, no, that's within, look, I don't love that comment, I don't agree with that comment, but that's within the acceptable bounds. And then obviously saying I like Hitler is outside of the bounds. Totally. That's like the easiest example in human history, right? But since Shapiro set up over here, he's got just as narrow a bandwidth as corporate media. It's just camped on the extreme right-wing side. So when they're like, they say, oh, freedom of speech. But no. If anyone in his network was like, you know what? I think trans people should be allowed to play high school sports on the teams that they choose.
Oh, it's over for them.
And I think that critical race theory actually makes some degree of sense. There's systemic discrimination. They're gone for perfectly legitimate opinions within a normal political setting. But since he's out here though, then when people are like, well, maybe a Hitler defender is not so bad, he's like, oh, God damn it, because now he's stuck. And on top of that, since he's Jewish, they're gonna say, oh yeah, guess who's controlling the media? That's why you shouldn't have set up camp over here, because they're a bunch of loons.
Let's also not forget, and this is the thing that stands out to me the most, he was willing to dismiss some of the gross anti-Semitism among conservatives here in the United States, as long as the Republican Party under the leadership of Donald Trump kept doing favors for the Israeli government. Because for him, supporting the Israeli government with no strings attached, with billions and billions of dollars, is more important than ensuring that anti-Semitism, is dealt with here within our borders, right? So I don't know. I mean, I found that to be a problem, and I feel like yes, part of this is chickens coming home to roost. I can imagine, because he's a devout, person of faith. Like
is he though? But all of a sudden though, when money's on the line and your reputation on the right wing is on the line, all of a sudden faith is like he's in a real struggle. You can see him on air, on Twitter, struggling.
The other thing is audience capture sucks.
That's definitely what it is.
And I want to give us credit because we're not captured by anyone.
Goddamn right we're not.
We regularly upset our audience. You're welcome.
Okay, so look.
But at least we're telling you guys the truth and what we really think. Yeah. I'm never gonna hide that.
Okay, last a couple of things here. I'm gonna defend ADL against both Max Blumenthal and Ben Shapiro. So Anti-Defamation League is not one of those like AIPAC, Democratic Majority for Israel. Those things are right-wing organizations trying to defeat progressives in primaries. They're hacks, they proudly say we don't care. Like they're indifferent to America, right? They say we are, like it's literally in the title, Democratic Majority for Israel and for right-wing Israel, not for all of Israel, right? So I got no love for those organizations. Anti-Defamation League, I might disagree with them on where they draw the line on anti-Semitism, I might disagree with them on Israel, but they're a real organization that steps up for everybody, okay? Their job is to fight against anti-Semitism, that's 90% of what they do. But by the way, when there was when Trump was trying to do the Muslim ban, the Anti-Defamation League was at the very front fighting for Muslims, on behalf of Muslims, on behalf of all minorities in this country. So they do great work, not just for their own group, but for other groups too, which is what makes them wonderful in that respect. So don't believe the hype from nut jobs. And so, and the last thing is to Anna's point, look, the right wing has this ideology of like, if you're not for oppressing Palestinians and saying they can never ever be free, then you're anti-Semitic. Well, that's garbage. That's obvious garbage to support your political ideology, right? Not having anything to do with anti-Semitism. But you know what is actually anti-Semitic? the same people who say that who are not Jewish, but right-wing evangelicals. You ask any of them, why do you support Israel? And they will tell you because of end times. And in end times, everyone in Israel dies, okay?
Unless they come to Christ.
Right.
Unless they change
And I love that the Christians always say that, like, no. I know, we're gonna, like, we/Jesus/whatever fairy tale we have. Remember, they're not Christian, they don't represent all Christians. They're radical, right-wing Christians that are twisting the Bible to their own sick purposes. And so in their ideology, they're like, well, we're so merciful. If a couple of them convert, we won't murder them. And you're saying that's not an anti-Semitic position? I mean, look at the insanity of our political landscape where people go, oh yeah, all the Jews are gonna be killed by the return of Jesus or whatever. And that's totally okay, that's not anti-Semitic. But if you don't support the occupation of Palestinians, that's anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Like logic not required. Anyway, Ben, good luck with it, okay? And if he's not wrong though. If he fires her, he will lose tons and tons of support on the right wing.
Yeah, he will.
Okay, and the anti-Semitism will turn against him. He's not wrong about that because the beast has been unleashed.
I mean, and he's already dealt with anti-Semitic attacks from the far right. And so, yeah, I know. The thing is, having principles and values comes at a cost sometimes. And you have to choose between sticking up for those principles and values and dealing with some short-term pain from your audience, maybe even some financial pain with loss of money or revenue from your audience, but you actually stood up for something. And I think that's more valuable than earning money, but that's just me.
Yeah, and by the way, when the right-wing monsters come for Ben Shapiro, ironically, who's going to defend him? We are, okay? Not because we agree with him on politics, and we've shredded Shapiro on everything, right? But if they go and they're anti-Semitic against Shapiro, we're gonna fight back against it, okay? Because we're the good guys. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.